Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hard Mode Podcast. We're going to be talking about everything related to video games. My name's Tim, but the ladies call me mitsofting, and this is my brother.
I'm Dan, and the ladies just call me Dan. Usually,
That's a lie. Um,
D Hard is what I usually go by.
so,
But
uh,
on the interwebs, I'm Red Sox Q4.
yeah, that. On OnlyFans. So,
Yeah,
we,
I
uh,
pop my top off on there all the time.
we're, just big fans of video games.
You could say the biggest.
We've been told pretty much our entire lives that we should talk about video games in some capacity, and we're doing it. We're gonna do it. We're just gonna do it. So here we are, and good old D Hard over here wanted to talk about the games that we kind of grew up with, our favorite games. This is me, by the way. You can see me. Hi. I'm in both cameras because we're nerds.
We're brothers, so we live in the same house.
Yeah, we're friends. Um, and so he wanted to talk about our favorite games of all time. So he's gonna start with that.
Okay.
So talk about your favorite games. What's your number one favorite game that you've ever played in your entire life?
I don't know if I can answer that question.
All right, give us three.
Well, I began playing video games in the winter of 1993. No, um, I was 2 years old and I started playing video games, starting with the Sega Genesis and the Atari and the NES. And the first game I really remember well is Donkey Kong Country, and I got it for Christmas when I was 3 or 4, and I just sat on the floor playing it, and that was kind of like the first time a video game blew my tits off. Like they fell straight on the floor. Um, After that, the N64 Banjo Kazooie was the love of our lives, both of us, I think.
Absolutely, still is. Nothing
Obviously,
better.
there's like 1,000 other games that we like from those generations. Like for Sega Genesis, we could just rattle off like Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, Air Busters, Gunstar Heroes. Like, could just go on and on. So then, probably next would be Halo 2, Bioshock, The Last of Us. Uh, that's probably like my top 7. I don't know how many I named. DKC, Banjo Kazooie, Halo 2, Bioshock, Last of Us. That's 5.
It's a good list. It's a good list. It's a good list. I can't disagree with pretty much any of them. The only thing I would probably change is I would throw Gunstar Heroes in because that's one of my favorite games ever, and I've never heard anyone else say it's their favorite game, so I always say it because I like to be different from everyone else. And I just remember,
This year, I got him the Genesis collection thing.
yeah, and we got absolutely smoked when we tried to play co-op like we were 8 years old again, and it was slightly miserable because that game is kind of hard. I remember playing it when it re-released on the Xbox Live Arcade on 360, and I didn't have that difficult of a time with it. But for some reason, when we just played it on the Genesis Mini or whatever, it was so hard. Maybe we're just old now. I don't know.
Well, when you age, you start to become really terrible at video games, so that's probably it.
Yeah, in our elden years, we've lost our skills for pretty much everything. That's how we ended up here.
Fit for a nursing home.
Absolutely. Oh, and did you say Bioshock 1 only? Is that
Yep.
is that the only one you said?
Yep.
So obviously Bioshock Infinite, because in my personal opinion, Infinite is better than 1.
Erroneous.
But okay, if it's a scale of 1 to 10, I would give Bioshock Infinite a 10 and Bioshock 1 also a 10. But for
A matter of personal
but for
taste.
some reason I just liked Infinite better. I don't really have an explanation. I just did. It might have been that Elizabeth was a smoke show. I'm not sure, but it definitely didn't hurt. So anyway,
I guess that's fair.
also God of War. God of War 2018 is probably in my top 10 for sure.
Well, I mean, we can
I mean, we could just
list
keep going if
for
you want.
potentially forever.
So that was just kind of to give you a little background of what we like, types of games we like, what we're into, but you should know that we pretty much play everything under the sun. Everyone gets annoyed with us, like our friends, when we play multiplayer games because we always want to stop playing a multiplayer game and play 8 other games because we like every game and everyone else just wants to play like LOL or Call of Duty or whatever for 90 hours a day, and we get tired of that real quick and we just want to play every game that comes out because they're all amazing and we love games.
I like video games. I went to school for game design and have a bachelor's, so I kind of like studied a little bit of everything, and I just like them a lot more than real life, to be fair.
Yes, 100%. I think one of the worst parts about real life is that it is not a video game. It's terrible.
That is a fact. That is a fact.
Um, so we are going to get into what we're playing recently and kind of get more in detail about those specific games, which for you has been a few different things.
Mm-hmm.
But probably the one that's been least talked about is the one that you reviewed up on your YouTube channel, Red Saw Q4.
Yup. Tamarin.
Yeah, that one. So I know you posted a review and I know what you think about it. But give us a little rundown of that once again.
Okay, Tamarin is a 3D platformer inspired by like the classic 3D platformers. It kind of takes like Mario's moveset from the early days and gives them a little dive in an air dive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it tries to emulate Jet Force Gemini shooting, but it emulates it too close, so it kind of feels like you're playing a crappy third-person shooter instead of like a fun
Like an
third-person shooter.
old third person shooter, or like so crappy as in it's outdated now in the way that Jet Force Gemini might be if we went back and used an N64 controller.
Yes. Yeah, so the camera insists on snapping to the center of the screen. So if you're playing a modern shooter, like wherever you leave your aim, it doesn't drift back to the center instantaneously. Some games have like a minor drift back to center when you're playing, and with Tamarin you have to use a controller. So like if you tilt the right thumbstick on your controller and let go, it immediately snaps back to the center. So if you're aiming to something that's not center screen, like keeping your thumbstick on there is ridiculously hard, and you can see.
Isn't that kind of how N64 shooters were?
Yeah, but they had more lock on.
But it's like similar to that,
Yeah,
which
I
is
mean,
which that's what I'm saying. That's
that's
like
why they did it.
that's insane to have that though in a modern game now
Yeah,
when
2020.
you could just give it a over the shoulder third person shooter camera angle like Fortnite as obviously the prime suspect.
Well, that's what I've been saying, man. So the platforming is pretty fun.
So that doesn't make sense.
Tamarin, let me say this, Tamarin brings nothing unique or new to the table. Nothing. Everything in the game was taken from
It does
another.
bring a cute little Tamarin though,
It does bring
and the
that.
graphics are kind of sick. It looks nice. It looks
Yeah, it's not
it
bad
looks like
looking.
a Pixar movie.
Yeah, like they purposely made it like very Disney-ish, but like every mechanic in the entire game has been done elsewhere, and the presentation is just how it's different. And overall, I had fun playing it because the platforming's fun because it's literally like stolen from other games. Like, it's not a bad platformer, but the shooting is rough and the aiming is rough, and there's just like minor head scratching design decisions where you're just like, why on God's green earth would they decide to do that?
That sounds like I want to try it for reasons such as the fact that I really like 3D platformers and I want to jump around and collect things. But other than that, I don't really care.
So in my review, I talked about that if you already like 3D platformers and you've played a bunch, then you'll probably like it more. But if you're like trying to get into 3D platformers, this is not where you should start
because it'll turn you off of all the other ones.
Yeah, like to me, Banjo Kazooie is like the boobies of
as in
of,
as in like it's the top tier, like the best.
Yeah, it's like a nice set of breasts, and you play with them, and it's fun the whole time.
But if you started off with Tamarin, then you wouldn't appreciate that really good set as much as you do.
Exactly. Tamarin's like a 6 out of 10 to me. I don't want to give it a number.
And what's Banjo Kazooie?
Like a 10.
Okay, that's
the
what
music, the gameplay.
I was gonna say the same.
The sound effects.
The soundtrack.
Yeah, the collectibles and everything in the game like are all necessary. There's nothing extravagant about anything. The worlds are perfectly sized.
It never feels like there's filler. It just feels like everything you do has a purpose and it's fun the whole time. Every single thing is fun to do.
Like I know most people say Super Mario 64.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, but Mario 64 for me, I feel like the collectibles, you mostly just collect stars and coins, but the coins, like, it's just getting you an extra life, right? Like, I like having more stuff.
The fact that it gets you further in the game, it unlocks more stuff, that kind of thing.
The coins?
No, like in Banjo Kazooie, I mean.
Yeah, the
like
music notes.
Yeah, as opposed to getting optional things.
Yeah, like the music notes are not only fun to collect, and like the sound effect that it makes when you pick it up is the best.
Badoop, badoop, badoop. It doesn't sound like it.
No, that's not what it sounds like at all. But like they have a purpose. The purpose makes sense that the doors are locked off because you need to collect a certain amount of music notes. And then all the characters in Banjo Kazooie 2 are just amazing. And in Tamarin, there's literally like one character, and it's a hedgehog.
And it's exactly like Bottles.
He's Bottles the mole, essentially.
So they
But
copied that too.
He like spews. What's the word I'm looking for? Like story information. Like you talk to him and he's like, "Well, guess what I found out? The ants are making a factory underground, and you're not gonna believe it, but they have guns." And you're like, "Wow, thanks for telling me that." Like he just what is the word I'm looking for here?
It's like he's telling you instead of the game showing you what's going on, which is like a classic mistake that people make when they not only make video games but like just write stories. Is you're constantly supposed to display things that show the reader or player what's happening, and instead they just put someone in front of you and basically give them a script to tell you the entire story, which is why games like God of War and Bioshock are so good, because as you walk through the world you learn what's going on through the world. It's like exactly. It's like if in Bioshock 1, Andrew Ryan walked up to you and just talked for 5 minutes and explained everything that happened in Rapture.
Like, well, let me tell you something about 1959, New Year's Eve. Guess what?
And I decided that I didn't like communism, so I started a city under the sea. and here we are.
And instead, you get that from the world and the
And the
audio diaries.
splicers and everyone else who's incredible. And it's great the whole time.
Yup. So yeah, Tamarin. Also, I want to just talk about the final boss. It's like the queen. There's two of them. They're facing each other, and I shot them. And like when you shoot them, they're like grasshoppers or something. They look like Scyther from Pokemon, and they're like this.
So every character model is copied from something else, according to your reports.
And you shoot them, and they turn and look at you like this with their like blade arms, but they don't actually attack you. So I just shot them. You don't even kill the final boss. It literally just runs away, and then you beat the game. It doesn't make any sense.
Sounds like a lot of hoopla.
Yep. So I mean, if you like platforming, the game's decent with that.
And the music's good.
The music's
As
good
you
because David Wise will blow your socks
David
off.
Wise could literally fart into a trombone and I would download it on Spotify.
I would too.
He knows that guy knows what he's doing big time.
So yeah, it's a 5-6 out of 10. I enjoyed playing it when I did. I'll probably never touch it again.
I might try it at some point, but I might just wait until it's like $5 somewhere.
Yeah, it'll go on sale because
and then,
it's getting garbage reviews.
Yeah, I feel like nobody's playing it, so it's gonna get cheaper and cheaper.
Well, some of the reviews are outrageously low and like
overly low.
yeah, they're just
like worse than they should be.
Hated every second of it. I'm an idiot. It's just like, all right, take it easy, man. Like
it's not
it's
that
not
bad.
perfect, but it's not that bad.
So, and the other game you've been playing is the Control DLC, right?
Yup.
That's based around Alan Wake. Did you finish that?
I did the Foundation, which is the first DLC without him, and then the second one is called AWE for
Alan Wake Enterprises.
yeah, that's it. No, it's
Alan Wake's Elephants.
Altered
World with Alan Wake's Erotica.
Alan Wake Erotica.
Alan Wake Erotica.
So the DLC, the Foundation, is a lot longer than AWE.
Mm-hmm.
Basically,
that's the first one that you finished, and you haven't finished AWE yet.
No, I finished them both.
Oh, okay.
I finished them both. AWE or the Foundation contains the best sequence in a video game ever created. And you ride a train and it plays some sweet music, which I talked about before. But it basically focuses on the one woman, I forget what her name is. The story in Control is so confusing, bro. Like I can't even explain what's happening. The board gets pissed, but the board, you don't even know who they are. They're like some kind of spirit, and she blows up the nail. What's the nail? Nobody knows. And you have to fix the nail because the astral plane that you keep visiting throughout the game is bleeding into the real world. And then the former, what is that? Don't ask me questions.
The former what? Or is that something in the game you're talking about?
No,
it's
like
called
it's
the former.
Called the former.
Oh, okay. I get it now. I thought you meant like the form or something.
The former talks to you and says, "Don't listen to the board."
The board.
The board says, "Don't listen to the former."
I really liked that game.
I like the game,
but I didn't feel like I wanted more out of it. Like I didn't feel like it needed DLC. I liked where it ended, but Alan Wake was really good, so I'm interested in that.
So the AWE thing is basically Alan Wake is like his projection is in front of Jesse, and you have to like go explore this sector where they have been investigating the occurrence that happens in Bright Falls where Alan Wake takes place. And so you go down there and essentially Alan is trapped because at the end of Alan Wake, he like jumps into the lake and disappears, and he's been gone for like 10 years or whatever. And I mean, that's the distance between Alan Wake and Control. And you like he has very little to do with the DLC. Like his projection talks, and you see him like freaking out and trying to escape, but you like he's not actually like in the DLC. Like he doesn't walk up and say like, "Hey Jesse, what's going on, lady?" or
Hey
anything
yo,
like that.
Ricky Missile,
Yeah, hey
what's going on
yo,
with
it's Alan Wake.
Jesse? How can we
So
get Alan Wake on our team? We need flashlights.
so basically the one thing they do bring in is that light damages the darkness. I don't understand why they didn't put more enemies like the darkness in the game. Like I thought it would have been really cool because in Alan Wake you have the flashlight, but in Control you can grab stuff with telekinesis. Well, you grab like lights and lanterns with telekinesis and shine it at the darkness to melt it away. But there's
Yeah.
no enemies except for the last one, the final boss, that you need to use light to hurt.
In Okay, continue.
So essentially, they bring in Alan Wake as like the Bureau at the Bureau of Control has been studying the Alan Wake occurrence in Bright Falls, and they have like a setup of Bright Falls in the basement, and the light they bring in the light mechanics from Alan Wake basically. So it was that DLC was a little disappointing for me. The Foundation I liked more. It was longer. It had more interesting mechanics because there's crystals growing out of the walls and out of the floors and all this stuff, and you can pull them out of the wall to make them longer and use them as a platform. So if you're flying, you can pull crystals out of the wall and land on it and then fly higher, and it like gives you more platforming options. And then you also can get the ability to shoot the crystals and destroy them or push them back into the wall and stuff like that. So it gave you a lot of new platforming options, and overall that one was, I think, more complete. I thought the Alan Wake one would have been better if like he actually got freed or something.
And it actually had more to do with Alan Wake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
that's kind of what I hoped it was, but the fact that it's not kind of makes me sad a little bit.
Yeah, I wish they also had like some sort of cool sequence with the lights and fireworks, or like let you play as
Mhm.
Alan Wake or something.
Yeah.
But
I remember playing the original Alan Wake, and that was one of those games where I expected literally nothing going in, and then it was just really good the whole time, and I loved it.
every Remedy game I have played is
Good in
good
some
and
way.
fun the
And
whole
then
time.
I remember they released the Xbox Live Arcade version, American Nightmare, and I was all psyched for it, and I played it, and it was the same thing 3 times. It was like you were stuck in like a loop of a day, and each
Hmm.
time you like made a mistake and you had to restart, and you did it like 3 times, but you literally went through the same areas and fought the same enemies 3 times, and I was so mad about it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever played it.
It was like it was cool because it was more of the gameplay of the original game,
Hmm.
but the fact that it was literally the same mission 3 times or however many times, it might have been more than 3 times,
Yeah.
just made me so sad. Like I was getting further and further into it, and I was like, "Am I doing the same thing again? Like this is ridiculous." But you just had to do like one thing slightly different. It was upsetting.
Yeah, I like the original Alan Wake's really good. I never played it. What is it, American Nightmare or something like that?
Yeah, it's American Nightmare.
Yeah, I never played that. I played
Probably
now.
don't
I've
probably don't
played.
really need to.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Now I've played Max Payne 1, 2, Alan Wake, Quantum Break, Control, and all its DLC. So I feel like I covered Remedy.
Quantum Break and Control, I know, got credit from like critics and like people involved in games, but like random people don't give those games enough credit. Like you don't see anyone talking about how good those two games are like you would about like Last of Us Part 2. Like those two games were so freaking good.
Well, I remember at the Game Awards when Control came out, it got nominated for Game of the Year, and people were like, "What the hell is this game? Like, I've never even
Dude,
heard of
it's
it."
so crazy. It was so good.
I I
People
don't
are
know.
stupid.
It's
Why are you
like
stupid, people?
from a gameplay perspective, it is just classic Remedy, like just straight up fun action third person shooting. Like it doesn't get much better.
There's not enough straight to the point, linear single player, blast people, create a few new mechanics I haven't played before, and make it just fun and like feel like you're progressing the whole time and rewarding and just make you feel like you're awesome.
Yeah,
So
like
every time somebody does that, it's cool.
Control literally turns you from a normal person into a superhero in the matter of like 8 hours, and
Like
then you can just smash everything.
I think it's almost like the Fallout syndrome because I feel like once like Fallout 3 and Skyrim happened, everyone felt like their single player or RPGs had to be so big that no one can ever finish all of it.
Well, they wanted them to be open world and
And it eliminated because linear became like a bad word. Like
yeah,
it was a bad thing. And it's like no, it's fine. Just make it interesting while it's linear and make it fun while it's linear.
personally, I'll take linear games over open world any day.
I feel the same way because I was actually going to talk about that because I was huge on Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Skyrim, Oblivion, um what other games? There's just all those are old RPGs when I used to have a ton of time when I was like really young. I probably had 500 or so hours into each of those games, and in the last I don't even know how many years, probably since Fallout 4, I have not been able to do that with a single open world RPG because I just don't care. Like I almost didn't finish Breath of the Wild because it was so big and I was like overwhelmed by it, but I love the game so much that I still just did it and I finished like 87, 90 shrines or something. And like cuz that game was just so freaking good that I couldn't stop. But like I already have this feeling that when Cyberpunk 2077 comes out, I'm going to be like this is the coolest, best game I've ever played in my life. It's absolutely insane. I'm going to play it for 3 hours and never touch it again because I know as soon as I open up the map, there's going to be 9,000 miles of places to go, unlimited quests, and I'm going to be like, what? When am I going to do this? Like, what? What?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I've still never finished The Witcher 3. I've still never finished
That's another good example of ones I have not finished.
Skyrim. I did finish the main quest line, but like I didn't get deep into the game at all. Like I just played the single
There's a
the
lot
main
of
story and that was it.
there's a lot of fun quests with like the factions and stuff like that in Skyrim. But I mean, if you've played an Elder Scrolls game, you've played them all basically. Like the combat is still uninteresting. It's a lot of filler quests. It's go to this dungeon and find my brother. He's been missing for 3 days and he's always dead or like about to be. It's a mess.
Yep. So the most recent open world games I beat was Odyssey and Ghost of Tsushima. Odyssey
Is Odyssey
dragged.
open world considered? Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess because you can just pick where you go.
Assassin's Creed, yeah. It's a complete open world and you can sail to like a bunch of different islands and
Oh,
explore all
I
the
don't know
islands
why I
that you
forgot that was called that. I thought you were talking about Mario. I was like, wait a second.
No, no, I'm talking about Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That game I put like 70 hours into it, and by the time I got to the 70 hours, I was like, I'm done. Like I'm good now. I played it. And the problem with that game is level scaling enemies where you're leveling up and getting new abilities, but they do the same amount of damage because all the enemies are always the same level as you, no matter what. And it's just like you feel no sense of progression whatsoever, and then you start to see like oh, this camp I gotta take over is the exact same layout as the last one I did. And oh, this synchronization point is covered in enemies with the same exact layout as the last one I did. So you get towards the end and you're just like, this could have been
Just finish the game now. Like
this could have been way
it's
shorter.
always like this is really good for the first 40%, and then the last 60% is stuff they just forced in so that they could say biggest map ever created, 8,000 hours of content, blah 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 blah, buy our game.
Yeah, and Ghost of Tsushima, I thought had a better approach because you're just a complete badass, and like instead of Assassin's Creed where it's much better to play stealthily if you're geared, like if you're not, that's the other thing with Assassin's Creed Odyssey is that you have to gear yourself towards specific like ways to play. And if you don't gear yourself towards like straight up combat or straight up stealth, then like you can't one hit assassinate people. And it's like you're an assassin in an Assassin's Creed game and you can't assassinate
Assassinate
someone.
anyone. Yeah,
It's
that's
so
like what
weird.
made the first like two games insanely fun, is that you felt like a real assassin when you found that target and did that. Like that's what made those games cool and had them blow up.
Yeah, so in Assassin's Creed you get in a fight with 50 enemies because you try and assassinate a guy and you can't. And it's just like a 25-minute battle where enemies take like 30 hits each and you're just like tired of whacking the same guy in the face. And then Ghost of
The
Tsushima is
combat
like
is rough in that game too. Like I don't think it's fun.
Odyssey is an improvement and like parrying feels good, but there's not enough variety in the combat to last for like 100 hours for me. Like it got tiresome. But the thing about Ghost of Tsushima is that you walk up to a town and you literally say, "Face me, you dumb bitch." And like they all come out and then you can easily strike down a few enemies with the standoff mechanic, and then while you're in the flow of the fight, you can change stances, and it's like it modifies how your attacks are performed. So like square is your standard attack, and if you're in like um water stance, you hold your sword above your head like this, and if you're in like rock stance or whatever it's called, you hold your sword down, and like each enemy has a different weapon, and basically it's like a rock paper scissors type deal, but not really at the same time. So if an enemy has a spear and you want to be in the right stance where you hold your sword lower so you can deflect the spear. If they have a shield, you want to be on the offensive and you want to hold your sword above your head and you can hit harder and knock their shield down. So like you have to approach, and also the story backs up the fact that they want you to just murder everybody. So like you're encouraged by the main character's uncle and by like the samurai code to not assassinate people. Whereas every other open world game is like, yeah, go in stealthy.
Yeah, I haven't played all of Ghost of Tsushima, but I played enough that they're like super with the like respecting your opponents that you kill and like all that kind of stuff. So they every time you like assassinate someone or sneak up on someone, your guy's just like he feels really bad about it. Like he just looks like
Yeah, and there's
it's
like
like
a
I made
couple
a big
times
mistake.
if you kill a certain amount of enemies like stealthily and assassinate them and don't look them in the eye when you kill them, like Jin, the main character, has a flashback to his uncle saying like always look the enemy in the eye when you end their life and all this stuff. So it's like there's no like dissonance between the writing, the story, the characters, and the gameplay. And there's no enemies that say, "Well, I'm level 70 now, so you can't one hit kill me." Like any enemy can just get ripped at any given moment, and it's great.
Yeah, that's what I think appealed to so many people about that game, is they didn't feel restricted to you either have to assassinate everyone or get in a basically impossible fight,
Mm-hmm.
or it's just a full on hack and slash. It was like kind of a healthy middle between those two and made it just exactly what we want it to be.
I mean, for me, it started like every other open world game that I've played recently. It started to drag towards the end. The only one that hasn't is Breath of the Wild, to be totally honest. But and that's because you run out of new abilities to gain towards the end of the game, and they do a pretty good job of spacing out the abilities, so like you're constantly getting new stuff. But towards the end, it's like, all right, I feel like I should be at the end now.
Yeah, I feel you. I was getting into the open world stuff because I was gonna say that one of the two games I've been playing recently is Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning, which has been just a delight in the open world department because I my least favorite thing about these open world games, like the ones I mentioned earlier, like Elder Scrolls and Fallout, is that the combat is just so stale and boring. It's the same with every MMO, all those games. WoW, freaking ESO, all those games is I'm gonna stand in one spot and I'm gonna do this with a sword, or I'm gonna hit my one key and I'm gonna throw out my attack and wait for it to recharge and WoW over and over again. And Kingdoms of Amalur's combat is so much fun, and it's not like that, it's not different from anything else. It's not really unique. It's X and it's heavy in quick attacks. It's a little bit of magic abilities. I have some sweet ability where I stomp the ground, a bunch of spikes come up under enemies, and then I can like shoot an electric bolt at them, and then I just start hitting them with a sword. And I got these sweet chakrams that I just throw at everybody. But the combat by itself, like the fact that I'm walking around this open world and doing these like mundane tasks like every other open world RPG has. Like it's like, "Oh, go kill 8 of this monster in the forest." But
Yeah,
like
go pick up 27 mushrooms.
yeah, every one of those games has the same quest, but because the combat's fun, it's kept me engaged the whole time. And then there's like big boss fights and like stuff like that.
Yup.
So I don't know how much time I have in that game now. I think I have something like 15 hours into it at this point, and I'm starting to not like when I first started playing, I was absolutely addicted. Like I wanted to keep playing. So I'm not
Yeah.
really addicted to it anymore, but like I'm still very willing to keep playing it. Like I'm still having fun, which has been rare for open world games for me for quite some time. So it's pretty cool for that because I always like open world games. I just can't get myself to play all the boring content that they fill them with, basically.
Yeah, recently I also played Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive on Switch, and that game is like you can move around in combat, but you're still just pressing a button and waiting for the action to happen. Like it doesn't happen immediately, and you have to wait for abilities to recharge and stuff.
But even just like a roll dodge and a shield block in those games, I feel like is so much different than everything else.
I prefer action combat over whatever you want to call
Yeah,
like I just
just the
I
1
just
through 4 keys.
yeah, I just can't get into that for whatever reason. JRPGs lose me if the combat isn't interesting.
Yeah, I obviously I'm big on we're all big on games with good combat, but there's certain games that don't need combat or can live without good combat, and there's certain ones that it's absolutely necessary for me personally, and RPGs is one of them. If an RPG doesn't have that, I'm probably not playing it.
I'm out. I'm freaking out.
Yeah. So the only other game I'm playing that I'm literally like the last whatever how long we've been doing this, almost 40 minutes. I've been thinking about it the whole time because I love it. Is Bullets Per Minute, which is, if you don't know, go buy it on Steam right now. It's coming out on consoles in 2021. It's a rhythm-based FPS roguelike where it's basically like Binding of Isaac, where you go from room to room in a dungeon. There's randomly generated enemies, randomly generated items. You can upgrade yourself, you can get new weapons, you can get health, armor. You fight bosses at the end of each floor, and then you move up to the next floor. And all while doing that, there's heavy metal blasting like you're playing Doom, and you have to shoot, reload, and dash your character in sync with the rhythm of the beat. And if you don't, then it just doesn't work. So, like, if you have a shotgun and you're 1 inch from an enemy and you pull the trigger, but you didn't do it on the beat, nothing will happen. And then that enemy will probably kill you. And it's freaking incredible. It's so much fun. It's like such a different. It's just. It's good. Like, I already knew that I wanted an FPS version of The Binding of Isaac because it would be fun, like just anything. But the fact that they added the music mechanic, they make me feel like I do in Doom when I'm listening to the metal and just blasting people in the face while also incorporating it as a mechanic into the game. And you feel so cool when you kill stuff. Like I go into a room and it's like the music's playing. I'm like, boom, 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 and I'm like shifting and shooting a guy in the face, and I just killed like 6 enemies all while the music was playing. Like, oh, it's so good
You're like in sync with the music
the whole
time.
time, and it's
Well,
it's so much fun. I love it.
have you played Crypto the Necro Dancer?
No, but I saw people saying that it's like the same thing except an FPS because that game's not an
Or
FPS, I
same
guess.
with Cadence of Hyrule is like Crypto the Necro Dancer, but with
Yeah.
Zelda. And it's basically like a top-down pixel art. It's not a roguelike. Well, Crypto the Necro Dancer is, but I think Cadence of Hyrule is less so. And you just have to move and attack with the rhythm. I completely suck at it, and I don't fully understand the mechanics. So I just kind of like gave up. I was like, I don't understand why I'm not on rhythm.
Dude, I was so terrible at it at first to the point that I was like barely getting to the first boss, and now I've practiced it enough that I've beaten the game like 5 times. I'm still only on easy, but I'm going to increase the difficulty, and I just keep getting better, and it has that almost rare now feeling of a new thing that you can get better at and improve upon, and there's like a learning curve instead of every other shooter that is exactly the same
Instead
and
of playing Call of
everybody's
Duty, which
good
feels
already.
like the last Call of Duty, which feels like the Call of Duty from 2007.
Yeah, speaking of which, I played the Cold War beta today, and I felt like I was destroying people on PS4 with a PS4 controller, even though I haven't played Call of Duty on a controller in a long time, and I'm not good with it. But I was hosing everyone because that game is the easiest game in the entire world.
Yeah, that's the problem with Call of Duty. Like most multiplayer games that come out, you can play them day one, and like everyone has to figure out how to play the game. But with Call of Duty, everybody just automatically knows how to play because it's
Yep,
the
because
same
you've been
exact
playing it
controls.
since 2003,
There's been like
something like
17
that.
games
Everything's the same.
consecutively.
You don't even have to set up like a new control scheme. You just
Yeah, you
turn it
just
on
jump
and
in,
you're it's like you never left the previous game.
adjust some settings with your sensitivity, boom.
But somehow we just keep paying for it. Richest video game company in existence. Maybe? No, probably not. Tencent?
Activision
Does
Blizzard is
Tencent own them? No.
no, they own Epic.
They own
48% of
Epic and
Epic.
Riot, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
48% of Epic
All
and
right, so
some percentage
Tencent's
of Riot.
probably richer.
Probably, if I had to guess.
But it's
But
probably
Activision
it's
Blizzard's
probably
probably
those
second.
two. Yeah. They're up there.
Yeah,
All right.
but I do want to try BPM because I am a roguelike fan.
You're going to get addicted like I am, and it's going to be great. You're going to love it. I can't wait.
Well, you already know I have 450 hours in The Binding of Isaac. I probably have like 50 or 60 in Dead Cells.
I have like 14 hours into BPM, and I've had it for 3 days. So that's a
Yeah, so
lot for
I gotta
me.
try it. And then I played Hades today too, which is pretty fun.
I never played it, but I played Bastion and Transistor, right? Same dev?
Supergiant.
Yeah. And those two games are phenomenal, so I assume Hades is as well.
I mean, it's Bastion except roguelike and fast-paced,
I like that.
and you can get like modifiers to your abilities and stat increases, and unlock secrets, and there's a story that goes along with it. Like, not most roguelikes are minimal story because you're just replaying the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
But with Hades, like, they tell a story alongside of it somehow, like, because Hades, or Zagreus, the main character, is going back home when he dies because he's trying to escape Hades. So, like, each time he returns, Hades is like, you dumbass, like, you're back again, idiot. You lost again. So, it kind of tells a story while you're also fighting your way through hell, basically. And it's
Yeah, that's kind of sick.
pretty
And
damn
I
fun.
like things that are based around that kind of mythology with Hades and all the whole gang.
Yeah, so, yeah, the voice acting's great. The music is amazing. The art style's good. Gameplay is super tight and fun. I'm not very deep into it though. I only have like probably 10 hours or less. I would say less, probably 5. I exaggerated.
Yeah. And then we bought Mario 3D collection today. So that's going to be played before next week's recording.
Yup.
For
100%.
sure.
Yup. And I'm
For
finishing up Paper Mario before I start it.
sure. Oh, and the only other game I wanted to mention that I have been playing is Diabotical, because not enough people are playing that game, and you need to go play it, because it's literally Quake, except instead of like Quake Champions that has terrible netcode and half of it doesn't work, it works, and it's good the whole time. And if you like Quake games, play Diabotical, because it's free and there's literally no reason not to play it because it's free. And you can put stickers on your robot and make him look funny. It's
And then blow up other
awesome.
people's funny looking robots.
Exactly. It's got everything. You like strafe jumping, you like circle jumping, you like rocket jumping, you just like jumping. It's got all that. You blow people up with rockets. It's got an LG that's called a shaft, so you can make tons of inappropriate jokes about that. But it's the LG from Quake. It's got a railgun that's called a pincer, which is a acronym PNCR for point and click rifle. So I didn't really have a point of saying that, but I just explained it.
Just play the game.
It's just like Quake. If you like Quake, just play it. Just play Diabotical. Just play it. It's free. It's free. It's free on the Epic Game
Also, we're not
Store.
affiliated with this, and if they want to sponsor us, they can, but it's free.
I am not getting paid by them. I just like the game. It's free on Epic Game Store. Download the Epic Game Store, because you probably don't have it, because I mean, not that many people do. And I guess Fortnite people do, so that's a lot of people. Most people do have it. Okay, so if you have Epic Game Store, it's even easier already. You don't have to download that. Just download Diabotical. All right.
So next week we're gonna talk about. I want to talk about Paper Mario, Origami King. What else are we gonna talk about?
We are going to talk about this remaster. Is it a remaster?
Of what?
Or it's just a collection? The Mario games.
The Mario collection.
I guess it's not really a remaster. It's just kind of a report. It's a port collection.
Yeah,
it's a ported collection.
It's like an emulator with updated graphics.
Yeah.
And soundtrack tied
So it's not really a remaster, but we're definitely going to play that. We'll talk about that. I might talk more about the Black Ops Cold War beta. I'll probably play that more this weekend. Alpha, not beta. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Vonderhaar.
You should be.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the same games that we're still playing, maybe, because I am going to beat hard mode on bullets per minute by then, guaranteed. That's a mitsofting guarantee, and you can take that to the bank.
Take that to the bank! Also, I'll probably talk about some detective games, because I've been playing those recently. Even though most people probably don't care, but I think they're pretty cool.
I don't know what you're talking about, so that piqued my interest. I'll tune in next week to see that.
Tune in next week.
All right, if you don't have anything else, I think we're good to close this down.
Shut it down!
All right, so if you like this video, please literally like the video. comment and tell us that we're both ugly, we're stupid, all our opinions suck, whatever you want to say, feel free, just let us have it. Subscribe to our channels. My YouTube channel is mitsofting, his is RedSawQ4, as well as our Twitch channels. Mine is mitsofting, his is RedSawQ4. Same on all social media. Hit us up. We stream on Twitch. We stream on Twitch pretty much every night, most nights.
Yep.
He usually starts around what, 6:30, 7 o'clock Eastern?
Typically between 6:30 and 8 o'clock, depending on how tired I am and when I get home from work and stuff.
And I usually go a little later. I'm usually 8:30, 9 o'clock, maybe a little later, until pretty much till I literally can't sit up in my chair anymore. But we stream on Twitch. Check us out. Follow us if you like any of it. If you don't, then just ignore everything I just said. So that's it for the brand new Hard Mode podcast. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Wink, wink.